Okay, so let's find the equation, find the slope of the line passing through these 2 points, 4, 5, and 3, 8. What I would strongly suggest that you do, don't put stuff into a formula. Draw a rough picture. So 4, 5 means move over 4, go up 5. And 3, 8 means go over 3, go up 8. Make a quick graph. And because it's going downhill, that means our slope is a negative number. And the reason I point this out is if you put your information, the 4, 5, if you put the information and you get a positive number for your slope, you know you've got a mistake. So I would always strongly suggest that you draw a quick picture just to verify. So we should get a negative number. Now, it does not matter which of these 2 points I call. If this is the first point, this automatically becomes the second point. Stay consistent, though. If I call this one the first point, this one by default becomes my second point. Okay, so if I choose the 3, 8 to be the second point and this to be the first point, I take the difference in the y values, 8 minus 5, divided by 3 minus 4. 8 minus 5 is 3. You're up $3, you're down $4, you owe me $1, which means the slope is a negative 3. Makes sense. It's a negative number. If I use the other pairs, so I'm calling this guy the second point and this the first point, does not matter. Just stay consistent. So this becomes my y sub 2, this becomes my y sub 1. So I take 5 minus 8, 4 minus 3. 5 minus 8 is negative 3, a 1, negative 3. You get the same answer. Okay? So it's a really, really good idea to check by making a really quick graph of the line and ask yourself, is it positive or negative? Let's take a look at number 8. So I have negative 2, and 4, negative 4. Make a quick plot. Okay? So, negative 2 means go over to the left, go down 2. Negative 4 means go over 4, go down 4. Slope is a what? Negative, but it's not very steep. Okay? So we take, if I take this as my second point and this is my first point, so I'm going to take negative 4 minus, be careful, a minus 2. And then I take 4 minus a minus 2. Let's see, so we have a minus 4, negative, the negative is, positive 2. And negative of a negative is positive 2. So we get 4 plus 2, 2 minus 4. So upstairs we get a minus 2 over 6, which we could simplify to minus 1/3. So it is a negative number, but it's not very steep, as we see from the picture. If I choose the other points, then I have a negative 4, negative 2 minus a minus 4, negative 2 minus a 4. So negative, negative becomes positive. You're down $2, you're down $4, you owe me $6. So upstairs I have 4 minus 2, which is 2, negative 6, so that becomes what? A negative 1/3, and it's the same. So it does not matter which way you use the formula, just stay consistent. Okay, so we found the point slope form was, I want to know what the equation of the line is satisfying certain conditions. So the condition is that the line passes through the point 2, 4 and has a slope of negative 1. So it's going to look something like that. And the question is, what's the equation of the line? Well, we pull out our point slope formula. So my y1 is going to be the 4, the x1 is going to be the 2, and then we put in just a negative 1 for our slope. So if we do that, we're going to get y minus 4 equals negative 1 x minus 2. Now, if you do this on a quiz or test, you're going to get, that's going to be, I have to cross this out because I have to talk about the quizzes, sorry. So this theoretically is correct, but what I'd like you to do is express it in the form, the point, the slope-intercept form, which means I have to get y by itself, and I have to write it as y equals m times x minus a number, or x plus a number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand, multiply by everything by a -1, so I get a negative x, the -2 becomes a positive 2. Now I'm going to do the inverse of subtracting 4 by adding a 4 to both sides. So if I add a 4 to this side, this becomes a 6, so you have y equals negative x plus 6. Could you actually check this? Yeah, if you look at this, the slope is a what? A -1. And if I put in the point 2, 4, what does this mean? If x is 2, y should be 4. So if I put in a 2 in here, 6 minus 2 is indeed 4. We have the correct equation. So it's always a good idea to check your answers. Okay, let's take another example here. So I'd like to find the equation of the line passing through 2 points. Now, your excuse me, point slope form, you only need 1 point, but you have to have the slope. Here you have 2 points, in which case you have 2 points, but you don't have the slope. So the first thing is you got to figure out what the slope is passing through these. Again, I strongly suggest you draw a quick picture. Okay, I guarantee this will cut down on the mistakes. So -2, 7 says you go this way 2 and then up 7. 5, -3 says 5, go down 3. The slope is definitely what? A negative number. So let's calculate that. Again, it does not matter which one you choose. So I'm calling this the second point and this the first point. So I take 7 minus a -3, -2 minus a 5. So let's see, a minus becomes a plus. You owe me $2, you owe me $5, you owe me a total of $7. So upstairs I have 10 over negative. So the slope is a -10 over 7. It's a negative number. Matches up with my picture. We're good to go. So now what we do is I use the the point slope form, and I could choose either point. I could choose this point or I could choose this, but it does not matter. So I just chose the -2 and the 7. So I chose that guy up there. And I just put this information. So I go y minus 7. My slope is a -10. X, be careful, minus a -2. Okay. And so the x minus becomes a +2. And then I want you to write this in the slope-intercept form, which means you have to write it as y equals mx plus b. So the next thing I'm going to do is distribute the -10 sevenths. So we get a -10 sevenths x. 2 times 10 is 20, so you get a -20. Now I'm going to add a 7 to both sides. When I do that, so I add a 7 to this side, I have to add it to this side, they cancel. And now we have to find the common denominator, which is 7ths, because this is really 7 over 1. So what do I have to do? I have to multiply this by 1 disguised as 7 over 7, which is going to be 49 over 7. And then 49 minus 20 is 29. So here's the equation of the line satisfying those. So what you could do now is you could take the coordinates of your that you're given and put them in. And notice that you're going to now be working with fractions, which means you're going to be highly prone to making arithmetic mistakes. Let's take some other examples. Suppose I want to know what the equation of the line is passing through 4, -5, and 4, 7. Again, do not put stuff into the formula right off the bat. You should always draw a little picture. So that's what we're going to do. And we notice something, that the x here is 4 and the x here is... That means they're directly above and below each other. So here's the y value being -5, and here's the y value being 7. This is a vertical line. And remember that as you're coming in, your concept of slope, as you're coming in this direction, you're what? Approaching positive infinity. As you're coming in from this direction, you're approaching negative infinity. You've got a double whammy. So you're not going to use the formulas, your point slope form, because your slope is infinite. I want you to notice something about these 2 points. The y value could be anything you want. The x value is always what? 4. There's the equation of this vertical line. X equals 4. What would x equals -3 look like? It would be over here, and it would be what? Excuse me, at -3. So it would be a vertical line here at x equals -3. Let's take another example. I want a line passing through 5, -9. So that means you move over 5 units and go down 9. This one says move over 11 units and go down 9. And passing through these 2 points, that's a horizontal line. And we know that that slope is what? 0, correct? But I don't want you putting vertical and horizontal lines. You don't need to put them into an equation. I want you to notice that the x can be anything it wants. It can be anywhere. But the y value is always -9. Means the horizontal line is y equals -9. And if you actually wrote this as y equals 0x minus 9, you'd see that it has a slope of 0. But you do not need to use those formulas for vertical or horizontal lines. You just ask yourself the question, what stays the same and what changes? Now this is something you're going to need to do when we get to the next sections. If I have a line and it passes through 2 points, that's enough information to draw the line. Well, I want you to call your attention to this point and this point. This is called the y-intercept and the x-intercept because it's where does the graph intercept the y-axis or the x-axis. And I want you to ask yourself the question, what is unique, what can we say about the coordinates of these points? Well, how do I get to this point? I move left or right, but I don't go up and down. That means the y value is what? 0. This is called the y-intercept. Notice I don't go left or right, which means the x is 0. So if I have the equation of a line and I want to make a really quick sketch of it, all I have to do is locate the what? The x and the y-intercepts. And that's what we do. So if we take number 60, I want to get a rough graph of this. 2x minus 5y plus 10 equals 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 10 and subtract it from both sides. Now, what's the idea here from this picture? If I can tell you what the x-intercept is and the coordinates of the x-intercept and the y-intercept, I can draw the line. And how do you do that? You set x to be 0, figure out what y is, or set y equals 0, figure out what x is. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So if I set x to be 0, this is gone, and I'm left with minus 5y equals minus 10. The inverse of multiplication by -5 is division by -5. So negative 10 divided by negative 5 is positive 2. So we now know one of the intercepts is at, be careful, it's 0, 2. You have to specify both of them. If I want to find out what the other intercept is, I set y to be 0. So if y is equal to 0, we only have 2x equals negative 10. Divide by 2. I get x equals negative 5. So the other intercept is at negative 5, 0. And there's the graph of my line. And so it's really easy to do that. Let's take another example. Suppose I want to know, get a quick graph of this equation. Alright, so what do? We're looking for intercepts. So if I set if I set x to be 0, this is gone, I get 7, 1. So that means y has to be 0. So we have an intercept at 0, 0. If I set y, if I set y to be 0, this is gone, and 2x equals 0, it means x, there's no new information. So that means there's an infinite number of lines passing through 0, 0. Which one is it? Here's what I do. I go back to my equation right here, and I'm just going to solve for y, so I subtract 2x from both sides, and then I get y all by itself, means I divide by 7. Now, we cannot choose x to be 0 because that just gets us y to be 0. We haven't gotten any new information. Okay, I claim the nicest value of x for this particular problem, okay, is not 1. It is 7. Let me say that again. The nicest value of x that you could choose is not 1. It is 7. The reason I say that is 7 will cancel the 7, and I don't have to work with fractions. This is going to come back to us when we do linear programming problems. So the next simplest is not 0 now, it's 7. And then if I wanted another simple number, it could be 14. And the reason for that is because I don't want to work with fractions. So I look at x as any multiple of 7. You could use 21, 49, etc. So if I substitute in 7, they cancel. So y is equal to negative 2. That means my x is 7 and my y is negative 2. I now can draw the line because I have 1 point passing through the origin, and 7, negative 2 means move over 7, move down. There's my picture, my graph of my line. Okay, suppose I want to find, this is number 46, I want to find the equation of the line that passes through this point, and it's parallel to the line passing through these two guys. Okay, how do I do that? Well, we're going to have to use the point-slope form. And I have the point that it passes through, but I don't have the slope. So I want it to be parallel to this, which means I have to know what the slope of, because this line passing through here, the slope has to be the same as the slope passing through this line. They're different lines. So if I take the points, sorry about the focus, hopefully that's a little better. Yeah. So if I take minus 2, minus 3, 2, 5, remember what I say, don't put it in any formula yet, draw a quick picture. So negative 2, negative 3 means move over 2, move down 3. 2, 5 says move over 2, up 5. The slope is positive, so we better get a positive. it does not matter which point you call which, just be consistent. So I'm going to take y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So 5 minus minus 3, 2 minus a minus 2. Minus minus is plus, so 5 plus 3, 2 plus 2. So this is what? 8 over 4, which is also known as 2. So what this is saying is we know that this line has a slope 2, and we want to find another line passing through a different point, and that's this line, that also has a slope of 2. So this is telling us I have two lines that are parallel, means the slope of the second line has to be the same as 2. And we want it to pass through the specified point. So now we're just going to take this information, our slope, the point, and we put it on our point slope form. And so we put in our slope, we put in the coordinates of the point. And so this is perfectly acceptable mathematically, but what I'd like you to do is write your answer in the slope-intercept form. So let's distribute the 2. Now the minus and minus becomes a 1, plus 1. And now I distribute the 2, so we have 2x and we have a 2. And now what we do is we add on a 3 to both sides, so this 2 becomes plus 3 is 5, and there is our final answer. Okay, let's take one more example. This is number 48 from your homework section. And we want to know what the equation of the line is passing through a point, and it's perpendicular to another line. So the first thing we have to do is plot the point. So it's the same type of problem, except now you're using the condition of perpendicularity. So the first step is to calculate what the slope is passing through these 2 points. Remember, don't put it automatically in a formula. I want you to draw a picture. So 4, 3 means move over 4, up 3. Negative 2, negative 1 means move over 2, go down 1. Slope is positive. So we can take 3 minus a minus 1, 4 minus a minus 2. This becomes a plus 1. This becomes a plus 2. So this becomes 4. Excuse me, 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. Notice these are both divisible by 2, so you end up with a slope of 2/3. Now, what do we mean by perpendicular? Well, that's that negative reciprocal stuff. Remember that? Another way you've seen this was perpendicular means also means that if you multiply these two numbers, you get negative 1, which means I'm going to do multiply both sides by 3 over 2. So the line that we want is, instead of 2/3, it's negative 3/2. We do the same thing. We take and put this information now into our point slope form. So we're not putting in the 2/3, we're putting in the minus 3/2, because we want them to be, we're not putting in a 2/3, we're putting in a minus 3/2, because we want this line to be perpendicular to this line. So we put in a minus 3/2, we put the coordinates of the point, do the same thing, we're going to distribute. So the minus 3/2 times x gives me a minus 3/2. Negative times negative is positive. Minus a minus is positive. I want to write it as in the slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract a 2 from both sides. What's the common denominator between these two? It's halves. So I have to take this and multiply by 1, disguised as 2 over 2. So the right-hand side is, haven't done anything to that. So 3/2 minus 4/2 is minus 1/2. There is your equation.